somebody that's gonna have the passion to do that. You will also need, the fourth piece of equipment, you'll need you're gonna need a vertical mower. Vertical mowers will take all the dead grass off the greens so that you can then go ahead and reseed those greens, and you have to do all of this. A lot of this has to be done early in the spring. And you really need to start thinking about it. February, you can't wait till 1st of April like I did last year, and then you're trying to play catch up. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, a lot of equipment needs to be purchased, and I say $150,000 is probably the minimum just to get started. And if you're serious about it, I think that the golf course really brings a lot of value to each and every one of us home, because we can basically boast about having a golf course, you know. And the people that came here this year were all, just, raving about how they really enjoyed golfing it out there. But without enough golf carts, we're down to 3, like Harvey said. We really need to have a minimum of at least 20 golf carts out there. So that we don't turn people away because we don't have enough golf carts. Now I know that this year we also tried the new approach of having them use their own side-by-sides. And those are great, but a lot of people that come traveling up here to Timberon don't think about bringing their side-by-sides. They might just come up here, just to see what's going on and see if they can golf. So, yeah, there's a lot of different options we used this year in the golf course, but those are all things that, can work, but you need somebody that can also advertise. You need to advertise this golf course. You can't just rely on people to word of mouth, because, you can if people are leaving the community and saying, hey, that's a great place to go golf. So once you have the golf course up and running and you keep it operational, it is also great to be able to have that value added to our properties up here. So again, it's up to the board, and it's up to the TWSD to make a decision on what they want to do, and get serious about it, or do the vineyards. So, anyway, that's just a little bit of insight here, folks, from what I learned in running that golf course this last year.
Thank you, Frank. Oh, okay, Brent, you have something to say about this?
Yeah, just a little bit. Timberon is a colonius. It's one of the places in Arizona, New Mexico, and I think Texas that within 150 miles of the border or something like that, there are certain places that have been designated as a colonius. Cloudcroft actually is one. But Housing and Urban Development, the federal government, provides funds to those states for the state to distribute it among each colonius, and I don't know the process for it, but there's like 16 million plus each year that the state has to divvy out. One of the purposes, or one of the reasons you can get funding from them, is recreational facilities for that particular place, because some of them aren't even as big as Timberon. But that might be something, and maybe we've already explored that. I don't know, but that might be worth inquiring with the state about getting money to refurbish the golf course, because it's the key recreational facility here in Timberon. But it would be a shame to lose it. It's a great thing.
So yeah, this is a golf course. We're going to move on from there, because now we're going to open the floor. You can direct your questions to any of the candidates, or all 3 of them, or just one in particular. Did you have one more thing to say?
Well, it's another question, yeah.
Oh, well, he wants to start right off. Come on up. I think he's already introduced himself.
This is really my original question, and the golf course just got sort of brought into it. Once again, my name's R.H. Sherman. I live on Pahuska. Those that know me know that me and my wife moved up here. Our house burned down. We've rebuilt, and we love this community. We really appreciate the TWSD for the fire hydrants they put in, and the ones that are planned. and we believe in infrastructure in this community. Something that upsets us is the fact that there are people that are absentee landowners and some current landowners that have not paid their fees. When we bought our land here, the abstract that we went through, the title company that we went through, told us specifically what we were gonna owe to own land here. So if you bought land here in the proper way, there is no hidden fee. They told us exactly what was owed. The fact that we have so many fees that are unpaid bother me tremendously. This money would take care of the golf course. It would take care of fire. In my opinion, owning land means you have made a commitment to be a husband of that land. I'd like to know what you feel we can do to collect these fees. As a second part of this question, living in the fire zone, most of the property that's there, mainly that's owned by absentee landowners, a lot of this property, no one has even started cleaning up. That trees are falling down, it's a hazard to my grandkids, to my animals, and to my family. When these trees have fallen into the road, the TWSD has graciously cleaned those trees up without any fees to the property owners. What do y'all think individually of starting to charge people fees or fines when their land creates problems such as trees in the road, and thus forcing some of these absentee landowners to take responsibility for the land they have up here?
Who would like to entertain to answer this first? B?
I think I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead, sure.
I think that would be a great idea if we send out a notice and say, if you have so many, let's say a month to come up and clean it up, or have somebody come in and clean it up. If not, we will clean it up and charge you for it. That is done in most communities. I know it's done in El Paso. If you have weeds that are growing, or your house doesn't look clean, the city gives you notice. If you don't clean it, they come in, clean it, and send you a bill. And I think that's what we should start doing, because it is a, putting a problem or a hazard for the community.
There are fire hazards as well when you have all that deadfall. Who would like to go next?
Sure.
All right, Brent.
I don't see anything wrong with that concept. As long as we give people notice, certified mail, give them plenty of time to correct the problem. Yes, sir.
Yes?
Us being a water and sanitation district, we cannot make those laws. It has to come from the county.
Mm.
I've been down to the county, tried to get some of this stuff done. They don't want to interfere with anybody's private property and all that. It's a problem. I don't like looking at the dead trees up there any more than anybody else does, but they have county meetings. I think it's like the second Thursday of the month at 9 o'clock in the morning. They make it real convenient for people on the mountain. If you want to go down there and have a presence, that's the only way we're going to get things done up here. We've got to have a presence down in the county. We cannot make those laws. We do not have the legal authority to make laws. Thanks.
Thank you.
Therefore, I
If
don't
I
have
can
an.
clarify, I think you missed my question.
They're not paying their fees, they're not gonna pay those fees.
I wasn't saying that we should do something that's a law. If we are being forced to clean that property up, if we're being forced to clean that debris out of the road, that we do not have to be incorporated to do this. If something's cleaned up, that we're doing it as an entity, we can get a hold of that landowner and say, you're not properly taking care of your land. We can do that. That doesn't have to be a fine. It's more of a, we cleaned the road, it's something you weren't willing to do, and I believe we do have the right to do that.
There needs to be some more research on that. Do any of you have any more to say about that? Mike?
Perhaps we could use the same method that we used when they did the debris cleanup initially after the fire. There was a lot of volunteer groups who came. We, you know, I'd be willing to spend some time to help. You know, I'm concerned myself about the trees that are very close to the road on Pawhuska. They're gonna begin to fall over here in the next few years, if not sooner. But I agree with Mr. Shug. We don't have, the water district doesn't have the authority to, it's not an area in which they have any purview in. And it is in the county commissioner's wheelhouse, but it doesn't prevent us from writing letters trying to get permission to do the work or ask them what they want to do with their properties. And but there was a tremendous amount of volunteer work that went on. I'm sure you saw it, you're aware of it, where, you know, I know there was a Baptist group that came up that just came and removed tons of debris. Maybe we could do something like that, but maybe on a smaller scale. But they'd have to give us permission to do that on their property, though.
I still think y'all are missing the point of my question. It's not just about that. It's, if we had these fees that were being collected, the back fees we've been talking about, if we had that money in the coffers and we found more creative ways to charge people that are not taking care of their own stuff. Because the county has pretty much said they won't help. I've talked to the governor's office. They've said they won't help. The only people that helped us during the fire were private organizations. So if the TWSD is doing work, we should find ways to charge for that work. If we are owed money, we should find ways to collect that. So I'm asking, how do we go about collecting the money that's owed us?
Okay, I'll answer that. Sorry it took you so
I'm
long.
sorry, I guess I confused.
Yeah, well,
That's my question.
I'm slow. I'm originally from Louisiana, so.
Oh. Just kidding.
We need a little extra help. I put together some ideas about recouping those costs. And I looked at the audit for 2016, and it was listed that there was $286,000 in doubtful accounts, the auditor said, about collection. Does that sound about right, Mr. Shug? Okay, okay, so you're saying it's well over $500,000 in?
It's around 500,000.
Okay. My idea would be, and I understand we're under some type of collection agreement with a contract with a gentleman named Mr. Moore currently. Does that include those fees? It's back standby fees that he's collecting on specifically? Okay. I don't know if it would interfere with the contract, but I would suggest sending letters and asking for a amnesty, presenting an amnesty. Could be 20% reduction in the amount owed if they would either do a cash payment or enter into some terms agreement for 1, 2, or 3 years. If they go 3 years, then they wouldn't get 20% off. But the standby fee thing, I get it. I looked at the audits, I've looked at the budgets, I've looked at the P&Ls that I've been able to acquire. The standby fees are being used kind of to float the water side of the operations. It's an internal component of that, in which, in my opinion, I think the standby fees should be a portion reserved so we can do things like line replacements and connect people's water when those standby people want to have their water connected. So if you could do an amnesty and get some people to come forward, then we can start to get it off the books, because I'm of the impression that we're using some of the lawyer fees to process some of these things. And I think this year we're going to have about $50,000 in lawyers' fees. And I don't know about you guys, but I think that's excessive. I think that's a lot of money. If we're spending $50,000 for, and I'm sure it's not all for standby, but if we're spending, say, $20,000 on lawyer fees to recoup in collections, then there needs to be, on top of what we spent, an 8% premium on top of that. Otherwise, that's just money that we're throwing away. So these doubtful accounts, we either need to try a different method than what we're doing, or, you know, I don't know, if it's $500,000, if you foreclose on $500,000 worth of properties, that's gonna be a lot of property hitting the market, and that could drive down the values of property. So there's a lot of different options that are potentially out there, but the one that I favor the most is to put forward an amnesty, because these are going back 20 years, a lot of these standby fees, if I'm correct. They haven't been paid for 20 years. Some of these people, I don't know if they're ever planning on paying it, but this may be something that gets them moving with an amnesty. I don't know, small thought.
Thank you, Mike. Do, B or Brent, do you have any thoughts on this matter? On how to collect the back fees and?
I think one step would be surveying all the community and to find out why people aren't paying them. You know, if there are people who are living there but they don't have the means, then there's programs out there that they might be able to utilize to be able to pay. Because I don't think we want to just, you know, spread it across the board and hurt people that need help. But if they have the means to pay and they choose not to, you know, that can't go on. So we need to understand why they believe they shouldn't be paying it, and why they think the rest of us who do should be subsidizing the water system for them. But come up with a strategy based on the feedback that we get. And Michael mentioned amnesty. It may include something like that. It may include a sliding scale. You know, if they haven't paid for 10 years, it's probably not realistic to expect them to pay 10 years worth of back pay, you know what I mean? But explore some kind of solution. And, you know, get the buy-in from the town that this money, this is what we call it. We could just jack the water rates completely up, but but we're tying this fee to a specific service, expansion of the system, whatever it is, and this is how we're gonna manage it in the future, and get people to understand why it's there, and then start collecting however we decide to move forward. And then from then on, the expectation is that it's paid. And if it's not, you know, if they don't pay, then we move to a different type of collection process and see where that leads. It may end up that their property gets auctioned off, but hopefully that would be not very often. That would be a last resort.
Thank you, Brent. B, do you have anything to add?
Well, I was just gonna say that this gentleman, Mr. Moore, is really working, and has been collecting some of the monies. I think the other problem is that a lot of people do not understand what the stand-up fees are. And that might be, you know, why people are saying, well, I'm not there, why should I pay for it? So maybe we need to reiterate what they are and what they're being used for.
That's a very good suggestion, because I believe that they were first enacted in 1993, Arden? Longer ago?
Longer than that.
Oh, okay. We have some, sir, may we know who you are?
I'm Mike Huber, and I have property on this mountain, and I've had property on this mountain since the 70s. Okay, when you purchase a piece of property on this mountain, the standby fees are in that, like RH said. You know what you're getting, and my wife and I have quite a bit of property on this mountain. And we pay standby fees every year. Now, my question is, and to the board, if this has been going on 20 years, 10 years, why hasn't, you know, what are you gonna do to address it? If you're elected on this board, how are you gonna address the 20-year or the 10-year? Now, used to, in the past, I don't know, 30 years or so ago, people didn't pay their standby fees, they were sent a bill, you know, and I know a lot of people that have bought property on this